I did want to show our how to get to the FOResT landing page that Dan mentioned. Should be able to see my screen now, and I'm at the main FOResT service homepage. If you haven't been in here in a week, it's going to look a little different because they updated our sort of template to the website, but this is the main FOResT service website. And on the home page, in the top of the right column, there's a link to file your FOResT operations notification online, and then the exact same link down sort of in the center of the page as well. And either one takes you to the same place. You just click on it. And this is the FOResT landing page where we have some resources for you to have a better understanding of FOResT and how to use it. I'm just going to scroll down through here. The first link you come to is the actual link to go to FOResT and file a notification, as well as create an account. But further down the page, there's a little bit of background, the timeline, what you're going to need before you use FOResT, which means an email address, and just a note about all the parties on a notification have to have an account in FOResT. We highly recommend that everyone does that before even starting a notification, just so that the notifier has all the information ahead of time. A link to our frequently asked questions. Some video resources. These are just a series of, tried to make them 3 to 5 minute videos about each part of FOResT and how to get through that part. And then the last part here is the actual recordings of our past overview and demonstrations sessions. And then at the very end, if you're still frustrated or have questions, this is how you get a hold of us here. So I just wanted to give you a quick look at we call that the FOResT landing page. Close that. So for the demo today, I'm going to be in our test environment. So through the process, you're going to notice there's some pop-up messages that come up when we first get to FOResT, just letting us know we're working in the test environment. But when you're using it in the actual version, you will not see those messages. But just sort of bear with me as I'm going through the process to get through those pop-up messages. So this is the home page for FOResT, where you would either, if you already have an account, you would sign in the upper right-hand corner of that button, or down in the bottom right-hand part of the page is a button to create an account. And we're going to start out by creating an account. So we'll click on that. And this is just a one-page form, very similar to other create account pages you might have used in the past. And I'll just kind of scroll down through here to just show you what we're going to be filling in. The first part is your name, your contact information, if you're a licensed FORester, your number, the email address you're going to be using to log into FOResT, as well as the password you'll be using, and then your physical address, as well as your mailing address here. And once that's all done, you click the Create Account button, and it'll create an account for you. But I'm going to go back up here and just start entering information to create an account. If there's a company name, you'd put it in. My phone number. Oops. And as you'll notice, there's we have some helpful hints here that I'm currently not following, but on the phone number, we're just looking for the actual numbers. There's no need to put in dashes. I am not a licensed FORester, but if you are and you need to put in your number, you would start out with either a capital F, LF, and then your number, or FI if you're an intern. And you'll see here there's some notice here on what needs to be entered. And the key here with the LF or FI is to make sure they're capitalized. In the past, we've had some people just putting it in lowercase and it's coming back with an error. So just make sure that the letters are capitalized in the license. And then along the way, we have links to provide a place where you can find more information out. This one is about Title 32, Chapter 76, Forester licensing. You click on that and that will take you over to that information. Now put in the email address I'm going to be using for this account. And then for the password, you'll notice there's this list of requirements along the bottom of the first box here. And these are based on the state of Maine security policies. So you'll notice as you're putting in a password and meeting certain requirements, those are going to fall off this list. So by the end of putting in your password, there should be no required statements down below here. And I will note that there's this one about special characters, and it actually means one of those four. So it's an exclamation, the @ sign, asterisk, or an underscore, the four special characters to use. We've had people trying to use other, like the pound sign, and it's causing them problems. And we're going to fix this statement to make sure it's clear that it has to be one of these four characters here to use. And my password. And you'll notice that once I got one in that met all the requirements, there are no longer a list down below here. And then you want to retype it in again just to make sure you've got it right. And once they match, you'll no longer have the statement down below. And the important part we're finding out is that just to make sure you remember what your password is, there is a security requirement that once you set up your account and you have your password, that if you try to reset it in the first 7 days, it won't allow you. So I'll emphasize it. Just make sure you know exactly what you're typing in here for a password, and make note of it. And then I'll put in street address. Physical address is going to be the same, or the mailing address is going to be the same as the physical address. So just check that box there, and there's no need to fill out a mailing address here. I do want to point out and just kind of, let's see here what I want to do. I'll just take that out here. So in the past, when we were clicking on create the account, the form wouldn't take you anywhere. You would click on it and nothing would happen. And it was an indication that there was some information missing on the form. And in the past, it would just sit there. Now we've built it, and it may not show up as well here, but when you click on it, it takes you back to the where you're missing your information. And then there's also as well a statement below that box indicating, hey, you need to put in a street address here. And then once all the required information is completed on the form, you just click create an account. And you get a little message saying you're almost there. And just for security, we're sent an email for you to click on a link to just activate your account. So check your email for those instructions. Click OK here. It takes you back to the home page of FOResT. And I'm just going to close this browser for now. And I'm going to go over to my email. And in my email, I have a message here, confirm FOResT user account. I click on that, and it's just a sort of a general message here, just welcome and indication that the main FOResT service received a request to create a FOResT user account. And once it's activated, you can log in or sign in and create, submit, or electronically sign a notification form. If you receive this in error, don't click on the link below and to contact the main FOResT service. A key part here is this is your user ID that you will need to, if you're not the notifier on the notification, you would provide that as well as your last name to the notifier so that they could add you in the contact section of the notification. And I'll show you where you can see that once we're into FOResT. And then there's a link here to activate the account, and we'll click on that. And that's going to take you to FOResT, and it's going to ask you to log in. And this is using the email address that you put in when you were creating the account. As well as the password that you put in when you were setting up the account. Just click sign in. And again, apologize for the pop-ups here. And so now you've logged into FOResT with your user account. And in the upper right-hand corner here, let me see if I can get that a little bit larger. Is your name and your FOResT user ID. And that information is going to be present on every page in FOResT. So if you ever need to kind of remember what your user ID is, it's right up here, as well as your last name that if you need to provide it to a notifier to participate in a notification. So that's sort of the steps to setting up an account in FOResT. Are there any questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat.
All right. So when you log into FOResT, you start out on what's called the dashboard page. And you can always return to it. There's a link here also to it, the dashboard. And it's divided into two sections. There's my pending notifications. These are ones where either if you're a notifier, you've started working on a notification that's in draft status, or if you've been asked to participate in a notification, your notifications that are pending certification would be listed here as well. And there would be a link off to the right here where you could click on it and go to that specific notification. The other part is my active notifications, and these are ones that have gone through the whole process. They are now active and they have a notification number. And then it also lists out some basic information about each notification. And then to the right here will be a link where you would click on it and it would take you to the summary page for that notification. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to create a notification. We'll just click on the Create Notification button. And this takes you to the overview page. And as Dan mentioned in his presentation, this is the first step on the path to creating a notification. There's also mapping, activity details, contacts, and summary. And we cannot advance yet to these other steps because we haven't completed the overview section. And the first part of the overview is my notification roles. As Dan mentioned, only a landowner or their designated agent can create a notification. However, if that designated agent could also be a licensed forester or a harvester operator. In this situation, when I created the account, I did not put in a license number. So that is why the checkbox here is grayed out for me. If you're a licensed forester and you provided your license number, this would be active and available for you to click. And then you'll also notice there are these little information icons here. If you hover on it or click on it, they're each going to give you a little bit more information about what we mean by either landowner, designated agent, or harvester operator. Excuse me. As well as there's the link here, similar to when we were setting up the account for the information on forester licensing here. So I'm gonna, on this notification, I'm gonna say I am the landowner's designated agent. And once I click on that, you'll notice that the screen changes just a little bit here to ask a little bit more information. It's gonna ask you for a start date or an operation start date. And we'll just say it's gonna start tomorrow. And it does automatically set it out for the full 2 years of a notification. And if the operation ends sooner, it can be closed out on the landowner report. Just on there, there's always been a question about if the harvest is complete, and you would check yes there, and it would make that notification no longer active. The next section here is property details. And this is where you'll select the town the activity is taking place in. And we're just going to say it's Abbott. And you want to enter the nearest road. And then the parcel size in acres. And then there's a question if the parcel's been purchased in the past 5 years, and we're just going to say no, it has not. And these are all the same questions that are on the paper notification right now. And like Dan mentioned, the goal here was try to keep this electronic process very close to the paper form. There is some benefits to having it be electronic, and you'll see here where we'll just present you with the questions you need to answer. On the paper form, you're asked every possible question, and it's not necessary in this system. You won't need to answer all of them. You'll be just presented with the ones you need to answer. And that completes filling out the overview section. Before I move on to mapping, is there any questions?
Nothing in the chat.
All right. We'll go click the next button here on the right, and that'll take us. Yep.
Somebody raised their hand.
All right.
John, you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
The parcel size is not necessarily the harvest size, correct?
That is correct. You'll see when we get to the activity details that actually asks for the harvest size.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I don't know if you noticed, but you know, at the beginning when we started this, we couldn't click ahead. But where we finished the overview section and we had moved on to the mapping section, we are able to go back to a previous section, and if we need to, we can adjust answers here, as well as we can advance to the mapping section now by clicking on the top. And as Dan mentioned, the town of Abbott, that's the town we selected for the activity, is centered right on the map here. And this is the functionality here is very similar to Google Earth or Google Maps, if you're familiar with that, or other GIS. On the right-hand side here, there's a couple of buttons to zoom in or to zoom out. as well as if you have a mouse wheel, you can just use that to do the same thing. Along the right there, there's also this little button, looks like 3 trays or layers. You click on that, and this is where you're allowed to change the base map if you would like. By default, it is a topo map, but you can select imagery if you would like to give you a better idea of where you need to get to on the map. There's also references for town boundaries. If you're in an LUPC town or township, it does display all those different sub-districts there. And there's a few. And then if you're in a statewide standard town, it also displays those. Sounds like somebody needs to mute their microphone, please. Thank you. Then by default, it's turned off, but there is this wildlife there. It'll display these 2 different critical wildlife habitat from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. There's the Canada lynx as well as critical salmon habitat. And this is at the town level, so it's just going to indicate on the map if the town has that critical habitat. Turn that off. And then to close this little layers, just click on those 3 layer or trays again to close it. So we're going to zoom in here, and you'll notice, when you first start out, you really can't see any of the details in the town. But as you zoom in, Abbott's a statewide standard town. So when you get to a certain layer or level, it's going to start displaying statewide standard information to you. And I didn't point it out, but you can also click and sort of drag to move around the map as well. So to draw an activity, sort of in the bottom third of the screen, there are these 3 buttons here: harvest, road construction, and water crossing. And we're going to start out by drawing a harvest. So you click on the harvest button, and you'll notice to the left there's some instructions on, if you're not familiar with drawing a polygon, it kind of goes through the steps on what you can do to draw one. So you just draw one, you just start by clicking once and just dragging the mouse. And then when you want to change directions, just click it again. And you'll notice after I did the second point there, it's now starting to calculate acres for this area or harvest area. Then you can just, as you can change directions, just continue clicking. And then when you're all done drawing, just double click. And then that allows the finished harvest to be displayed here. If you find it needs to be tweaked a little, you can click on one of the existing buttons and just click and drag it to change, as well as there's not sure if you can see it, but on the line in between these 2 points is now another point, and it's just kind of floating, but you can click on that and drag it to change the shape as well. So for now, you can kind of change the shape however you'd like. And then once you're sort of set with the harvest area, down in the bottom of the table here, there's a table. And you'll notice that the line here has an activity ID of number 1, which corresponds with this harvest area, with the number 1 in this sort of center, I guess, of it. And you can either, if you want to just start completely over, you can click cancel. Or if you're set with the area, you can click save. And you'll notice once I click save, all those points are gone now, and that shape is uneditable for now. You can still have the option of deleting it completely if you want to and start over. And you'll notice that it also calculated the acres for that harvest area in this table. And now the number 1 goes again with on the table is activity ID number 1. The next activity you can map is a road construction. Click on the road construction button. And again, to the left, it's going to show you how to draw road construction or map road construction, and it's just drawing a line. So you can click just to start a line, just click and start dragging, and immediately it's starting to calculate the feet for this. And then to change directions, you just click again and continue dragging however you want the road to be. And then just to end it, you would just double click and that would end the drawing. Again, you can still, like the harvest area, you click on one of these dots and you can, change the length, shape that you want. And if you want to add a new change of direction, just click on the line again and you can do it there as well. With the road construction, again, on the table below, there's a number 2 here for this, and that corresponds with the number 2 on the map. And there's a question about if this road is temporary or permanent. And we're going to say it's temporary. And again, to the right on this line in the table, you have the option to, if you want to start over, you click cancel, but we're going to click save. And that just kind of locks in the road. You can't edit it anymore, but you can delete it if you want to start over completely. The third activity that you can map is the water crossing. And again, you just click on the water crossing button here. And again, to the left, it gives you information on how to map a water crossing point. And it's just a matter of clicking, the crossing is represented as an X, and you're just gonna kind of hover where you want to put the crossing and just click once, and it's gonna put the crossing there. And you'll notice it is assigned a number 3, and then down in the table is the number 3 for the activity details. You can move this crossing around if you want, if you want to tweak it more. And once you're sort of satisfied in the location, there are 2 questions about the crossing. Question, is it temporary or permanent? We'll say it's temporary. And then there's a question about structure type. And we're going to say it's either a road crossing or skid trail. So we're going to say it's a road crossing. And again, the save and cancel buttons, if you want to start over completely, click cancel, but we're going to click save. And so that's, we've mapped out a harvest, a road construction, and water crossing on here. And I will just, you can do multiple activities within the same town under the same notification. So I just want to show, quickly here that you can draw a second harvest if you want, and save it. And then you have a fourth activity here. And then I'll just show you can delete them as well. So we'll remove that, and it just prompts you to make sure that you're sure you want to delete this activity. So we're going to click yes, and that removes that activity from the map. Are there any questions on the mapping?
Yeah, Greg, I got a quick question. Can we import shape files, like if we do it in ARC, if we do it in some other GIS, in the Polygon?
Yeah, not at this point. It's on our list to do. We understand, there are people out there, businesses that have their own GIS, and that it'll be helpful to just kind of bypass sort of this mapping here and just be able to bring in their own features. And so it's on our list to do at some point. But right now it's not available.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right, so the next step here is we're going to go to the activity details. And to do that, just click on the next button on the right-hand side, top right. And this is presenting you with questions based on the activities you mapped in the mapping section. And so the first one, or first section, is around the harvest activities. And let's see, I'm going to show this. So the first question is about how many acres are you anticipating harvesting? So I think Dan mentioned it in his presentation. So if you put in a harvest size that's greater than the parcel, again, we built in some checks here, little notes saying, hey, you're creating you're saying your harvest area is well, it says it has to be less than or equal to the parcel size, which we did in the overview section as 550 acres. So this is a built-in check that you have to enter the harvest size less than the parcel size. The other thing I do want to show, based on, I think I mentioned it, how we're presenting you with only the questions you have to answer. So in this example, I'm just saying, okay, I'm going to put in, have a 5-acre harvest. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but there were 2 questions down here around clear cutting that are no longer there. And they're around if the clear cut is greater than 20 acres or greater than 75 acres. So where we're saying the harvest is only 5 acres, there's no need to answer either one of those questions. But if we say, okay, it's going to be 50 acres, the question around if the clear cut's going to be larger than 20 acres is presented to you here. And then if we say it's a harvest size of 500 acres, then both of the questions are presented to you for answering. So we're just going to say it's a 500-acre harvest. The land is in tree growth. The next question has to do with if the land use is going to change from growing forest products in the next 2 years. And so you say, check yes here, and you're presented with these additional questions. The first one has to do with, I think Dan mentioned it's a menu or a selection list of what these broad categories are. If it was, in the past, you would just put in lawn or garden or cornfield. Now you would just pick whatever the sort of broad category that would fall under. And then you would put in the number of acres that the change of land use would be in. So we'll just say there's going to be a 1-acre conversion to a residential, whatever that may be, house, garden, whatever. And then we're going to say that we aren't creating any clear cuts that are larger than 20 acres or 75 acres. The next question has to do with if you're within 250 feet of water. We're saying we're going to be. The next question has to do is if you're adding wood to a stream that's consistent with Chapter 25. And if you're not sure what Chapter 25 is, this is a link, so we'll click on that. And that takes you specifically to Chapter 25 on our website, so you can read more about that and understand what it is. We're going to say we are not adding wood to the stream. Abbott is a statewide standard town, so you're presented with the questions around shade retention. And we're just going to say we're going to do the 60 square feet basal area retention. So that takes care of the harvest activities questions. Now we're presented with the road construction activity questions, and this is a fix we need to take care of here. These questions really would not be presented in an organized town. They would be just for LUPC or activities in LUPC. So you can put in 0. And then we did say it's a temporary road, and then you have to pick a time when it would be discontinued. And we'll just make something up here, and then that we're not in a FEMA floodplain. Again, these I'm not totally sure about the temporary land management roads, but I know the first question here about altering wetlands and the FEMA floodplain are specifically presented or should only be presented in the LUPC activities. And that takes care of the road construction activities questions. And then for water crossings, we did indicate some, but there is no need to answer any specific questions. It's just to review the requirements on the summary page. So that takes care of completing the activity details page. Is there any questions around that?
No questions in the chat.
Okay. So the next step on the journey here is the contacts. So we'll click next here. And this is a section where you're adding the other parties that are going to be involved in this notification. So I'm the designated agent on here, so I need to provide the landowner's information. And to do that, you would just put in their last name. And their FOResT user ID number. And then you click Find Landowner, and I'm going to show you here. So if these two do not match, you get this notice here below saying that there was no match found, and just to double check your entries. Then I realized, well, I forgot the actual last name has an S at the end. And then I would click this again, and it brings in that landowner. And if this is not the right person, they can be removed here. Just click remove and it would return you back to where you can put in a different last name and user ID number. Then to finish the landowner information, there are these two questions. We brought them forward from the landowner report. There is a question on the paper notification around ownership size that you would type in an actual number. But we thought, why do it twice? So we just said, okay, let's use the categories that are on the landowner report to indicate ownership size. So we'll just pick that, and then there's the ownership type. And again, there are these information icons here that you would, if you have questions about what we mean by each of these different ownership types, you can hover on them and get more information about them. And again, these are the same, if you're familiar with the landowner reports, these are the same ownership types we use in that. So that takes care of the landowner's information. I'm the designated agent, so my information is being displayed here. And then the harvester operator is required, so I need to plug in their information here too. So I'll put in their last name and their FOResT user ID. And again, highly recommended that all the parties that are going to participate on a notification, even if you're just thinking about doing a harvest and haven't got to this point, that they all should come in here and make sure they have their account set up and they can provide the notifier with their last name and their user ID number. We've had some people come in and they get to this point and they're not sure what this information is, and it kind of stops them quick. So we strongly recommend that everyone have a user ID in here before they start a notification. So again, put in the harvester's last name, user ID, click Find Harvester Operator. It displays their information here. If it's not the right one, you can remove it and try a different person. If there was a licensed forester, they can be plugged in here with the same process. But for now, we're just going to say there was a landowner, a designated agent, and a harvester operator for this notification. And that takes care of completing the contacts page. And then the final step is the summary. Before I go there, are there any questions around the contacts?
Go ahead. No, all right, John, you have your hand up, or is this from before, or do you have another question?
No other question. Not sure how to take the hand down, actually.
You actually hit the same spot where you turned it on. Oh, it's gone. No, it's not. Okay.
All right. So we'll move on to the summary page or summary section here. Click next on the upper right-hand corner here. And you'll notice the font summary section, the status is draft, which means that as a notifier, you can still go back to any of these sections here and change answers or information you've provided. So what you're doing on this page is just reviewing what you've entered in these previous sections here. So the first one is the contacts. And again, you're just reviewing what you've entered. And if everything looks right, you click certify this information is correct. And you check that to, whoops, sorry. And that takes care of the contact section. And then the next one is you're reviewing the overview. The first step we took here, you're just reviewing the information that's there. And if there's any information that's incorrect or you feel needs to be changed, you can always go back and click on the overview section and change it here. We just jump back to the overview section and you can change any information here. So we're going to say, let's go back to the summary section. And the contacts, you'll notice are back open. And we built this in such a way so that you can, if you leave the summary page and return to it, we redisplay everything because things may have changed in each section. So we want to make sure that you're reviewing the summary page in sort of one step here. And so you can check the box here, certify this information is correct again. And then the overview section, again, we'll say that's correct. And then the mapping, or the second step here, again, this is what you mapped, but there is functionality here. You can zoom out or zoom in, as well as there's the, you can actually change to the aerial imagery if you want to here. It's all the same functionality, except you cannot add new activities here. You can go back to the mapping section and add them or remove activities. But here you're just reviewing again what you've mapped. And then below the map is your list of activities you're going to do. And again, if this is all good, you just check the certify this information is correct. And that will close that. And then the next section is activity details, the third step in the process. And again, you're just reviewing what you've put in there for information. And again, there are some links here. The Chapter 25 rules, that's a link here if you still need to have more information about that, as well as the Section 7 of the statewide standards is an active link here. And again, you're just reviewing the activity details that you've entered. And so you just certify that that's correct. And then the next part is just presenting you with our contact information, either the district forester or the forest protection regional office. And we're going to be editing this checkbox text here. That it really doesn't make sense for somebody to say that this, indicate this information is correct. So we're going to change this just to say acknowledged as read or something like that. But for now, you just check that box. And then you get to your important reminders. And this is based on the activities that you're going to be doing on this notification. We want to present you with some important reminders around them. The top part is some boilerplate ones, just to check with your municipality for any local ordinances that may apply to your activities. Make sure you're familiar with all the rules that apply to your activities before you begin, and just to plan your harvest well in advance. If there are any important reminders around harvesting, they would be presented here. There are not, but there is one about the road construction, and it just around, make sure that if it's, I think we indicated the road was temporary, but there's a note here saying, hey, if it's still in place after 7 months, it's considered permanent, and it would require a permit from the Maine Forest Service. And then there's a link here to section 11 of chapter 21 for reference about that. And then we also, around water crossing construction, there's a important reminder around that as well, and a link to chapter 21. And then there is some general reminders, and these are ones around forest quarantines as well as critical wildlife habitat. And these again these are links, so you can click on one if you want information about pine shoot beetle quarantine. Click on that, and that takes you to our website, and specifically to the pine shoot beetle quarantine information. So you're seeing the most up-to-date information that we have on those quarantines. And so this is the last checkbox on this section. We haven't checked it off yet, and you'll notice this certify button is grayed out, like Dan pointed out in his presentation. But once we check that last box there, this becomes active. And at this point, we're saying that everything we've entered, we're in agreement in, and we're ready to certify our part as the notifier of this notification. So click certify, and you're presented with these 3 acknowledgement statements around being the designated agent, and that you're filling it out as the best of your knowledge, and that you understand the landowner will come in and must sign it to indicate that you're the designated agent for them. And then there are also any permitting, you understand that if their activity requires permitting, you're acknowledging that that needs to be done. Keeping it very brief, but that's sort of those 3 statements. Once those 3 are checked off, the acknowledge and certify button becomes active. And what will happen is, and I'll point it out in a second, is that the notification, it goes from a draft status to pending certification. And when that happens, at the same time, emails are sent, in this case, to the landowner and the harvester operator for them to come in and certify their participation on this notification. So I'm just going to click acknowledge and certify, and just give it a second here. And it just notice comes up here just saying you've successfully certified this notification, and that the other contacts have been notified, and it's no longer editable unless the font is no longer editable unless you choose to withdraw it. And just click OK. And you'll notice now that the appearance here changed a little bit. There's no longer that sort of path to getting to a notification. We're now just looking at the font summary. The status has changed to pending certification. And the only option you have to this notification is to withdraw it. And just to be clear, if you click withdraw, all that does is it moves it back into a draft status, so that you can, if you need to tweak it more, change it, answers or whatever, you're allowed to at that point. And then those other parties who had received an email saying to certify, if they try to come in, would I believe they get an indication saying, hey, this is in draft status now, so you can't certify. And again, this is just, there's a certification section here at the top, and I did certify this, and then you'll notice as we go through the next steps, the other 2 parties will be noted here when they certified their part. And then again, you can scroll down. This is the summary page, just without the check boxes. It's just for your review of it or reference. The map is still just like in the summary page, same functionality. You can move around it. You can change it to the aerial imagery if you want to. It lists out the activities that are going to be done that are on the map. And then again, just the same information, as well as the links here are still available. And again, this is just as the notifier. You've done everything you need to do at this point. So this summary information is just for reference. So that takes care of, as the notifier, designated agent on this one, I've done my part. Now I need to have the landowner and the harvester operator certify their participation on this notification. So before I sort of change personalities to go to the landowner, are there any questions at this point?
Hannah, you have a question? You have your hand up?
I do. I might be answered in the next section. My question is around, landowners giving sort of a blanket okay for the designated agent to sign off, like we've done in the past, a letter on file or something. So maybe that will get answered in the next section.
Actually, I don't think it does. This is something we're working on. If you're a licensed forester and the designated agent, and you have a fiduciary responsibility to the landowner, we're working on building a feature in where it would be sort of on that, at least how I visualize it, it would be on the overview section where there would be you're indicating your licensed forester and a designated agent, and then there would be a checkbox to say that you have fiduciary responsibility. And then it would present you with just entering the landowner's information there, and it would bypass the requirement of the landowner to come in and certify their participation.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not present, but it's in the works to be added here. I think it's the next item on our work list.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So
Any other questions out there? No. All right, I guess not.
Okay, so I'm just gonna sign out of FOResT. Takes you back to the home page here, and I'm gonna close it completely. And so now I'm now the landowner. I've changed gears here, and I have looking at my email, been hopefully good communication amongst the parties on the notification. So I'm aware that I should be expecting something in my inbox, and I do have a message here. Pending certification of a FONS in Abbott. I'll click on that. And so just a opening statement saying that a notification was created by Greg Lord through the FOResT tool, and it is currently pending certification until all the parties have certified their involvement, and that I have been identified as the landowner. And yeah, that I need to certify the information is correct and understand my responsibilities. And then there's some very basic information around the notification, who created it, the town it's taking place in, and then the start and end date here. We didn't want to really present everything in this email, just some brief information about it, just to give the parties some idea of what this is about. And then there's additional information on what needs to be done. If you approve of the FON, you go in and certify that it's correct and you understand your responsibilities. If you don't approve, you can decline and return the FON to the designated agent or to the notifier for corrections if it's an issue incorrect information on the notification. And then once all the parties have certified, a FON will be submitted to the Maine Forest Service, and a notification number will be issued. And then there's a link at the very bottom here. And this is a key step, I think, for the other parties on a notification. By clicking on the link within the email address, email message, you'll see that it's going to take you directly to the specific notification that needs their certification on. I'm going to click on this link, and it's going to take me to FOResT, and I need to log in as the landowner. And their password. And what this is going to do is, there's this little note at the top. It's going to take you, you sign in, and it's going to, whoops, yeah. Try that again. So once you sign in, I'm logged in now as the landowner, and you can tell in the upper right-hand corner here, it says signed in landowner FONs, and with this user ID number. And I'm now looking at this specific notification, the summary section that's pending certification that I need to now review. Otherwise, I could just, if I don't want to be involved, you would decline it, and it would kick it back to the notifier, either to correct, or just it would stop right there. And when it's declined, it takes it back to the notifier so they can edit it if it needs to be. It will put in a draft status. So like the designated agent previously, I'm now looking at this as the landowner, but I'm looking at the exact same information the designated agent did on the summary page. There's the contacts information for all the parties. Again, you're certifying that it's correct. You're reviewing the overview page. If that's correct, you can mark that off. If you have questions, it's hoped that you would get a hold of the other parties involved, and just for either clarification, or if you find there's a need to decline it and kick it back for updating, you can do that as well. But we're just going to say that it's correct. Again, the map, same functionality here as we've seen. You can change it to aerial photo. Zoom in if you need to. And then it lists out those activities specifically. I'm going to say that that's all good. Next, reviewing the activity details. All this information, these links are still active. If you wanted more information on them. The harvest activities, the road construction activities, and then the water crossing activities. I'll say that's all good. The Maine Forest Service contact information here. Then the important reminders. These are the exact same ones that the designated agent saw. And again, you have the links here to get to other parts if you want to get more information on stuff here. As well as the forest quarantines, as well as the critical wildlife habitat. And again, once all these check boxes are checked, the last button here, the certified button, becomes active. And we'll check certify. And so now these are the statements around the landowner, sort of similar to what the designated agent saw. You're acknowledging the answers are correct to the best of your knowledge and belief, that you've named a designated agent. as well as, you know, if there are other permitting and documentation requirements that they need to be done. And again, then at this point as a landowner, if I still had some questions, I could cancel it, go back, talk to the other parties or decline the notification and get it back to the notifier to correct if need be. But we're going to say we're good to go as the landowner. So we're going to click acknowledge and certify. And it just a notice saying, hey, you've done your part, and there are other contacts that must certify. But you can still review the summary page here. So let's scroll back up to the top. So I'm still logged in as the landowner. And I now see that now I have my information here when I certified it. And if I was logged in as a designated agent, I would see this. Yeah, I would see the exact same page now, exact same information. So as a landowner, this is still pending certification because we're still waiting for the harvester to certify their involvement. But I can go in here and just look at things as reference. So that, I'm going to sign out as the landowner. Close that, and that. So the last party that needs to certify is the harvester operator. So I'm now changing again to be the harvester operator on this notification. I've been made aware that, you know, I'm should be expecting an email to certify my participation on a notification. So I'm looking at the harvester's inbox here, and there is an email, similar information to what was presented to the landowner. The only difference here is it just says that I've been identified as the harvester operator on this notification, and that I have to either approve or not approve my participation in this notification. Same information the landowner saw in all this email, as well as the link here. So as the harvester, I'm going to now log into FOResT. Click on the link in that email, get rid of this pop-up, and I'm going to now log in as on the harvester operator's account. Let's see if I got that password right now. All right. So I've logged into FOResT as the harvester operator. Again, you can see in the top right-hand corner, what I'm signed in as operator FONS with this user ID number. And I'm looking at, again, the summary page for this notification that's pending certification. I can decline it right off if I want to. But again, I'm not going to spend too much time going through this. We've seen it a couple times now, but just reviewing the summary information. Again, if there's questions that you have, you would reach out to one of the other parties on it, or for clarification. And if you're in agreement, you would just, you know, click these check boxes. If you're not or have some questions, you would decline, and it would go back to the notifier. Again, map works the same regardless of who you are on the notification. Again, everyone on the notification is seeing the exact same information on this summary page. Contacts for us, and the important reminders, as well as the active links here for pertinent information. And again, once you've checked all the boxes here, the certify button becomes active. And as a harvester, there are only 2 statements to acknowledge. Again, just the answers and questions are correct to the best of your knowledge and belief. And then if there are other permitting or documentation requirements. And that once the all the parties have certified, the notification will be submitted to the main Forest Service and a number will be generated. So in this demo, we are now, we know we're the last party as that needs to certify this notification. So once I click acknowledge and certify, the notification changes from pending certification to active and is assigned a notification number. Up until this point, I could click cancel here, decline involvement. It would it would kick back to the notifier this notification for them to make any changes that need to be done. But once I click acknowledge and certify, this becomes active and it's no longer editable. We are working on the ability to add amendments. It'd be more like attaching a file. It's not there yet, but it's in the works. So I just sort of, in this example, a few things happen here once I, as the last party on this notification to certify, is going to happen here. So click that. And then you get this saying that it's successfully certified this notification and it's been submitted to the main Forest Service and is now active. So click OK. Scroll back up to the top and you'll notice there's a different look here. This is still the summary page, but you now have a notification number and the status is active. There is a button here to print the posting, so click on that. And it's going to look sort of similar to the ones we generate now. And you can print that out. The one downside here right now is that you aren't able to print this whole summary page. The hope is soon that if you went to the browser print function, that it would print the summary page, or there may be a different button here that says print summary. But in the browser print function, it takes you back, so you would print the posting again. So again, we're working on having the ability for you to print out the whole summary page. And then we present right at the top here, Landowner Reports, you know, what they are and what they're used for and who would fill it out. And then the rest of this page is what we've looked at a few times now, except now you can see when all the parties certified their involvement on this notification. And the rest of this page is just the summary that we've looked at before. With all the functionality here on the map. So that takes care of a notification. I have two more things to show, but before I sort of jump off from this process, are there any questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat or anybody's hand, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. So when we started out, after we set up the account and logged into FOResT, we went to the dashboard. And at that point, we had just set up the account, so nothing was really going on in the dashboard. But now I'm logged in as the harvester operator, and I just want to show you what the dashboard looks when there's more things going on. So we're on the dashboard. There are my pending notifications. So there are two here that I need to address. Again, you would click on the view here. And again, it would take you to the summary page like we've done a couple times now, and you would certify your involvement. I'm going to go back to the dashboard here. So there's two ways to get to a notification that needs your certification. The preferred method would be to use the email address, use the email message that it came in on, where you would click on the link, you would log into FOResT, and it would take you directly to that specific notification that needs your certification. The other option is just to log into FOResT, and then you would, if you only have one or two here, it's not too difficult to get to. But if you have more notifications that are pending your certification, it may be a little bit more to find the right one to do. So anyway, that's the pending notification section here. And then my active notifications, you'll see these are ones that are now active. They all have a notification number, the date they became active, but there's also their start and end dates, as well as what activities are covered on that notification or what will be occurring on that notification. And then there's a link to view it. Click on view, and again, this is the summary page specifically for this notification here, and for your references here, just to look down through the page. So that's the dashboard with a little bit more going on in it. And then the last one I wanted to show was the My Profile, and this is where you can go in if your phone number changes or your address changes, you can change it in here. The only thing you cannot change is the email address because that email address is tied to this user ID number. So it's a one-to-one. One email address is assigned one FOResT user ID number, and the same the other way around. You can only have one email address per user ID. I hope I said that both ways right. But anyway, so if you didn't put your license number in, you could put it in at this point, as well as update if your mailing address or physical address changes. You can do it here, make the changes, and click Update Profile, and then that would take care of updating your information here. So those are the other two things I wanted to show in FOResT. Are there any questions?
If you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself.
The goal is probably this summer, early fall. We'll probably do similar trainings like this to go over actual filling out a landowner report in here. It is in here. Well, let me see if I can go back and I think on here it sort of tells you when it becomes active. I think it's the beginning of December. Yeah, so we have it, it'll automatically turn on December 1st to be available to put in landowner report or complete it. So the goal is summer, late summer, fall. We'll start sort of having sessions similar to this on how to do landowner reports in here. If there are no other questions, I want to thank you all for attending today. I hope it was helpful. Thank you, Dan, for doing the overview, and Greg and the rest of the team for monitoring the chat and the questions. If you have questions, comments, criticisms, please send them our way. We want to have an opportunity to address them and make this a better product and experience for you to use. And if that is it, I wish you all a good day.